come on in. Come on in. We are going to be talking about today. We are on this Motivational Monday. We are talking about some Black history stats in the mental health field. So, I have some amazing stats and some amazing things to talk about regarding Black history and how mental health has developed or not in this time period since mental health has really become a thing. Okay? All right. So I want you to take time to like, share, and hit that bell so that you can get more mind altering messages from me, Tony. All right. So I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, and so I'm going to bring you on this Motivational Monday. We're going to be talking about, as I said, the mental health statistics and just how we can do better as a people, okay? Because I feel like we have all of the knowledge. They're in books. What they say, put it in a book because most Black people don't read. And so we have all the information out here to help us to be better. And so, since this is Black History Month, it's Black History all year long, but this is the month dedicated for us and set aside for us. I want to bring you this Monday and next Monday more Black history facts. So let's talk about mental health in the Black community. By the way, my thesis was on why African Americans and Hispanics go to therapy less than white Americans. Some great findings in that. Now I graduated in 2012, so those were kind of old stats from 2012. So we're talking about 12 years later. So some stats have changed. Some are fairly, as I looked up these stats for today, some are fairly similar. Okay. So, according to Plymouth Psych Group, they said that 1 in 4 Americans have some type of diagnosable mental health illness. That can be from anxiety, that can be from depression, it can be from bipolar, mood disorders, it can be a number of diagnosable, actually what they use the DSM to diagnosable mental health illness. Okay, so 1 in 4 Americans, regardless of race. Okay, it said that blacks are 20%, so that is 20% is 1/5, right? 1/5 more likely to experience a mental health diagnosable illness. We can go into that next week. Why blacks are 20% more likely to be diagnosed or to experience a mental health issue. That's what it said. It didn't say be diagnosed, it said to experience. Okay, so we have higher rates of mental health illness in our um, race. Okay, 25% of blacks seek treatment for mental health. Only 25%. So that means that there are 75% out here who could possibly have a diagnosable mental health illness, but they don't seek therapy. And those are for a number of reasons, which we'll go into a little more next week. I'll talk about it a little bit on here, but we'll go into it a little bit more next week. And that's compared to, so like 25% of blacks go and seek mental health therapy compared to almost 50% of whites. So it says 40% of whites. 40% of whites seek help, mental health help. Okay. One reason or a couple reasons why blacks go less, and these are some of the same reasons I found back in 2012. Now, you would think 12 years later that things should have changed. One, black people on a whole have fear of going to therapy, so they don't go, right? Also, they have been taught certain cliches that if I say this and you're black, you have probably heard it. What goes on in this house stays in this house. You don't go talk to nobody else about your problems. You keep it in house. So that's how a lot of family secrets have stayed in the black household. Okay. What else? So fear, right? Fear of the unknown, what they're going to experience in therapy, fear of sometimes bringing up or talking about the topic that is underlying. I don't want to say causing per se, but underlying the mental illness, okay? Less access to health professionals, okay? Because there are less black health professionals than there are whites. And I'll get into those stats in a minute. There are significantly less black health professionals than in white communities. And then we have black, less access to health professionals. Okay, so some of that is it could be insurance, right? And so let's just say if you're on Medicaid or, the public health system, so there are less therapists who are like them. So studies say that a person who enters therapy prefers to see a mental health therapist that looks like them, right? So if you black, your preference overall, right? It may not be, it's some outliers there, but studies say that you are going to seek somebody who is also black, right? So if you're white, more than likely you're going to seek somebody who is white. All right. Now, according to, I want to talk about a founder in mental health, in the black mental health care system. And her name, and then her husband, so they were married, husband and wife, Mamie Phipps Clark, and then Kenneth Clark. So I want to talk about these two. These are the ones I chose to talk about for the mental health profession. Um, they were the first black woman and man to earn their doctorate degree. Kudos to them. This was in 1943 from Columbia University, I believe. Yeah, in psychology. So I'm sorry if you hear I am actually getting some work done where I'm at. And so if you hear that, overlook it. Hopefully, I'm speaking loud enough so you can hear me. So they were the first husband and wife who actually, black husband and wife who earned their doctorate degree. Doctorate is after master's, right? So you go master's, then doctorate level. And so they went up in a time when that was not even, you didn't hear of blacks getting a doctorate degree, 1943. Okay. So it was very rare to hear of that in the black community. So her husband, let me see, what did it say? Yeah, he was the first black man, and Mamie Phipps Clark was the first black woman to receive their doctorate degree. They provided evidence of the adverse effects of segregation. So they focused on children a lot, highly on children and how segregation affected black people. Also, they focused on and developed the development of self consciousness in black preschool children. So, have y'all heard of, if you haven't, I'm going to tell you now, remember the Dow test, right? So, if you haven't heard of it, they would put different colors of dowels in front of these preschool children. And so they would look and see which dowel does the black preschooler, um, choose, right? What dowel would they want to have? And so the study found that those preschoolers are choosing or would choose the white dowel over the black dowels. So they are the ones who was over the dowel test. They did that dowel test. And it still goes on today because I actually have a granddaughter who prefers white dowels over black dowels. And so I tell her all the time, I will not. I will not buy you a white dowel. And so, we talk about why she prefers that dowel. And the thing about it is, they don't know. They just think that the white dowel is better than black. And so that goes a lot to media. And I'm not going to get all off into that, but it's a whole lot of factors that play a role into that. How the white dowel is promoted versus how the black dowel is promoted, right? And how the black dowel is viewed. Sometimes it could be even how they market the black dowel versus the white dowel. And so a lot of preschool children were found to choose the white dowel. So that's a Black History fact that Mamie Phipps Clark and Kenneth Clark were the ones who really just propelled that, pushed that test to be done in so we could really start looking at how segregation plays a role in our children's lives, right? And you see it even in schools. Segregation was a big thing back in the 40s and 50s, 60s, where we were bussed into white schools. We were treated poorly. All of those things play a factor into why the children thought that white dolls were better. Okay. Now, here is stats on mental health professionals and how many are really in society. So we have seen a blossom. We have seen more Black mental health professionals, psychologists, psychiatrists, marriage and family therapists. That's what I am, a licensed marriage and family therapist. We have seen LCPCs, um, mental health counselors. We have seen an influx of that, but not enough. So let me give you the stats on that. So according to the Association of Black Psychologists, there are only 4% of psychologists. Those are the ones who have the doctorate degrees, like Mamie Phipps Clark. 4%, which means 96% don't have their doctorate degree. And so we'll talk about some differences of having your doctorate degree versus having your master's, right? Like now there's a lot of things that even at the master's level you can do that doctorate level can't. But we'll talk about that on another day because I think that is important for you to know. When you see psychologist, that means that they have gone to the higher level, right, which is doctorate level to get their degree. So, in the black community, only 4%, which means 96% don't have their doctorate level degree, okay? Psychologist. And then get this number, only 2%. So let me tell you this, a psychologist cannot prescribe meds, right? They can't, right? They can do assessments, but they cannot prescribe the meds. They have to send you out to this next 2%, only 2%, which means 98% of those in the mental health field don't aren't psychiatrists. Those are the ones who prescribe, right? So a psychiatrist can prescribe for mental health meds, okay? And it's only 2% of us who go in that direction. I can't say us. I said, well, us, as in black people that go to be a psychiatrist, which is actually a medical degree. They have to go to school for that. And so yeah, only 2% in the black community go to be a psychiatrist. Think about that. Some of these meds that are being pushed, I wonder if there was a higher level of us blacks who were actual psychiatrists You know, does the medication impact us as blacks in a different way? Right. And so if we had a higher level, we would have more voice, more say so in some of this medication that is being pushed upon even some of the diagnoses, diagnoses maybe that are being put upon us as black people, right? So we definitely need more psychiatrists, those who are in the prescribing business, because hey, that our voice is important, right? Our We need more of the black voice in this arena of being able to prescribe to and for us as black people. Okay. Then we have 22% of um, black people who are social workers. So 22%, that's nowhere near half, right? That's nowhere near a significant amount. It's much higher than psychologists or psychiatrists, but 22% are social workers, which leaves what is that? 78%. 78% of people who are not. And then we have 7%, like me. I'm a marriage and family therapist, licensed marriage and family therapist. 7% are marriage and family therapists. Now, if you think about the big issues that go on within our families, right? So, we as licensed marriage and family therapists have been trained to deal with the systemic issues that go along with marriage, family, also the individual, but we look at it from a systemic perspective, right? So only 7% of us have been trained as a licensed marriage and family therapist, which means 93%. That's a big, that's a whole lot of room for growth in the area of licensed marriage and family therapists, right? And so this just shows the need for more of us in these professions so that we can start making a change in these different areas, because there are different boards, right? We need to be on these boards and helping to make some of these decisions that are being made on behalf of all of us. Like, we're in the category, and there are some differences that occurs in the black households versus whites versus Hispanics versus Asians, right? So we need more of us professionals to be on the boards to become licensed professionals, so more people can be seen by their own, right? Because we said the stat is that people want to be seen by their own race. Okay. And then we have 11% of professional counselors. So that can include like mental health counselors, or LPCs, LCPCs, right? So we have so much room. So if you've ever thought about going to be a therapist, if you're black, it is a great profession to go in. Um, and, people talk about the money of it, the money aspect. There is money to be made in it, but you must have a heart for the people. You must have a heart for people to grow. And mentally, it can take a toll on you as a mental health professional, but you have to do your own self care. As for myself, I just love helping people mentally, right? I love to help them to change their negative or unhealthy mindsets. It's just a passion of mine. I know it's my purpose. And so if you have ever thought about that, really do the research. It's a great profession to go in, and you would be one who could help more, who could add to the numbers that we need in the profession for blacks. Okay. All right. So I hope you got something out of that was beneficial for today. We got some background on one of the or two of the people who really just laid a great foundation for us as Black people in the mental health field. We talked about the different disparities and things that differences in Black communities as far as, even therapy, things we have been taught that we need to learn to normalize. Therapy, just like you go to a doctor, right? Therapy is as necessary because if it says that 20% of Blacks are more likely to experience mental health issues, and one in four um, Americans have some type of mental illness. So we got to say one in four. So that would make it almost 50%. That would make it almost 50% of Blacks that experience some type of mental health issues. So we need all the professionals in this field as possible. All right. Whew. Yeah. That was very, hmm, how can I say it? Like, it was kind of mind blowing to me that the stats are so low for how many of us are professionals in the field. Even though you see, it seems like it's really growing and growing rapidly. We need to make sure that we're using our licenses to help the benefit and the growth within the field as a whole, right? Because what these low stats are saying is that our voices aren't really being heard because the numbers are so low. How many of us are really participating in being on different boards and having some say so in maybe different medicines that are being used in our communities? Okay. So it's gotten me thinking as a mental health professional, a licensed marriage and family therapist, like what can I do more for our communities to help us to even understand the necessity for mental health professionals, right? It is definitely a need because our minds need to be renewed. Our minds is what causes so many of these things that are happening in our race and our culture that we aren't dealing with. We're sweeping under the rugs, you know. And so if we go to a physician, a doctor, right? What will make us think that our minds don't need a doctor as well? I'm just saying. It's pushed for us to go to the doctor twice a year and sometimes more, right? And so is that all about the money? What is behind that? And so the same way that you would go to a physician is the same way that your mind needs to be checked up on too, because you can only grow to the level of which you're at, right? And so that's the whole point of having a mental health professional to be able to help you to see some of those areas that you may not see within yourself, right? There are shadows and there are sometimes just different blind spots that we don't see within ourselves. And so having a mental health professional will help you to be able to work on some of those blind spot areas. All right, y'all. So if you haven't by now, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to my channel and I will be bringing you more motivational. This is motivation for me first, right? To really look at and really assess what am I doing enough in my community? Am I adding and using my voice enough for the profession to grow? So these are all things that I will be considering and thinking about and seeing how I can even further assist in the Black community because we need it, okay? All right, so go ahead and subscribe, hit the bell, and you will get more mind altering messages from me, Tony Denise Lattimore, licensed marriage and family therapist. Go and enjoy this magnificent Monday, and I'll see you soon.